If you recognise that this is just part of the roller coaster, part of this diagram that everyone goes through, it would take all the power out of it and you'll be able to push on through to success. Uninformed optimism. Phase 1. Uninformed optimism. This is your New Year's resolutions. You've imagined all of the incredible benefits you're going to get, and you've not experienced any of the pain of like doing those new uncomfortable things. You've not had to do any work, and you know, because you imagine your future self as someone else, the brain doesn't recognise future Seb as present Seb. That's a different person. So it's fine, isn't it? Like, they'll do the work, it's fine. I'll get all these benefits and they'll do the work. Is informed pessimism. This is where you've begun to experience the hard reality of making the change you want. And you realise it's going to be harder than you think to achieve these things. So this is informed pessimism. You've now had some experience and you realise it's harder than you think. If you carry on through time, we get to the Valley of Despair. Have you heard the story of the guy who swam halfway around the world, didn't think he could make it, and swam back? If you're currently in the Valley of Despair, this is you. You just need to keep on pushing. It'll probably take the same amount of effort, and you'll reach success and fulfillment instead of quitting. I've been here so many times, and I'm sure you have, and I've just given up. And it's so frustrating now I can see this graph. But this happens when we've been putting in the work, we've been sacrificing ourselves, taking all this uncomfortable action, and we've not seen any of the results yet. So we're just sacrificing ourselves, we're just giving ourselves away to this goal that we want, but it's really hard and we're not seeing any progress. So we're in the Valley of Despair. It's informed optimism. Informed optimism. You've had the experience, but now you're optimistic because you know that you can carry on. Things are getting better, it's getting easier, you're actually seeing results. Finally, number 5, success and fulfillment. Come up and you've actually got the goal that you want. The behaviour's now easy, you've achieved the thing, and you've been through this roller coaster, so you've got the reference, like you've been so low, so now you're so high. This emotional cycle of change that we go through is applicable to every goal that you undertake. If you're trying to fix your sleep schedule, the Valley of Despair might be a week in, and you might come out of it a week later on like the month that it might take. If your goal is to have a successful YouTube, maybe it's a year and the Valley of Despair will be 6 months, or and it will last 2 months or something. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm just going to assume that you know what I'm talking about, because our lives are very cyclical. Like, I always am in these phases, like things will be really good and I'll be really up, and then naturally I'll just come back down and things will be bad again, or I'll be a bit pessimistic. And I've always wondered why this is. Like, why can I not sustain, like, you know, why can I not sustain this up? And I realise it's the emotional cycle of change. You can't constantly be successful and fulfilled. Nothing is static, right? So I suddenly realised, oh mate, this graph applies to just everything. Try and apply it to some things in your life. You experience like these ups and these downs that just come and go throughout your life. And for me, they're in the time scale of like months. And I've always wondered, like, why this happens. Now I realise it's because we're changing. I'm experiencing the roller coaster of emotions on shorter time frames with my goals that I go about like day to day and week to week and everything. But as I'm growing and I'm changing, I'm also on a massive emotional cycle of change. That's why sometimes with your current perspective, you can be super successful and fulfilled, but as you reach the top of your mountain, of your current reality, there's more, you see more, things get more complex, and then suddenly you're uninformed optimistic, and then there's more to conquer, and you come back down because you realise there's more to it and it's harder than you think, and then you carry on and you come back out of it and you're at the top again, and then you see more, and this is just the circle of life. I find it so interesting. We're in this giant roller coaster of emotions. So don't blame yourself for being like cyclical, for sometimes being super successful and fulfilled, and sometimes just being overwhelmed with despair. You've probably just gone through a phase of like finding out things are more complicated than you think, and there's more to it than you think, and like you've just had this win, you've just conquered something, you've just been feeling amazing, so now it's like, shit, like, it's harder than you think. It gets more and more complex. I think that's why kids have like a naturally high self-esteem, because things are so simple to them. It's like, oh, you child, like, you have no idea. Like, who knows what experiences are like for our parents or our grandparents even. Like, I'm not sure how old you are, but every year I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm talking about, like standard teenager stuff, and then you get more experiences and then new things happen and then it gets harder and you're like, oh shit, it's more complex than I thought. But it's just so reassuring to know that everyone is on this roller coaster, everyone is having this cycle of change, this is just their life moving. So you should be reassured. If you're currently in the valley of despair, if you're currently just filled with the despair, that's you down here. Great, like amazing, because you're actually halfway. All you do now is push on through to success and fulfillment. Another YouTuber, Hamza, talks about the self-improvement depression. And now I see that he's referring to this same thing. He is again just referring to the valley of despair, but he has his own terminology for it, obviously. I feel like our experiences are not that different actually, but we're all different in the way we communicate them. So he calls it the self-improvement depression. If we put that on the emotional cycle of change, you realise that they're just in the valley of despair. The reason this is happening is because you had some uninformed optimism, you were going to improve your life and everything, things were going to be incredible. Then, as you actually started to find out how hard these good habits are, since you've just been like binge eating and you've been doing all these bad habits, you become a little bit pessimistic because you know how hard it is. As this carries on, it only gets harder, and there's no results, as we said, so now you're in the valley of despair. I'll put the full page photo in this video so you can screenshot it, have it there on your phone, put it on your wall, draw it and have it on a post-it note on your wall, just to remind you, like, this is the cycle that everyone is going through all the time. Any new thing you undertake, you should expect to reach the valley of despair at some point. That's fine. The reason you want these things that you want, the reason I want these goals of mine is because they're hard. It makes them more valuable because they are hard. If everyone could do them, it wouldn't be fun, it wouldn't be rewarding, would it? Like this YouTuber says, if everyone had a Lamborghini, I wouldn't want one. No one would want one because it's like, oh, everyone, Lamborghini, everyone's got one. You'd want the thing that stands you out. You want that thing that is above the rest and is harder. You want to be good. You want to be great. That's fine. You want these things that are hard. So expect them to be hard. Expect to be a bit defeated and depressed. And then, since you're expecting it and you know that this is just the cycle that you go through and it's just a part of the process that leads to success, it's much easier to carry on. Instead of just feeling despair and like thinking, you know, I'm not shit, who's I to like want this goal, and then giving up and crawling back into your bed, you can just realise like, oh, I'm in the valley of despair, I'm halfway. And then you can carry on much easier. Alright, I hope this has helped. You got this, man, you can do it. Also, let me know what you think about me holding the camera now. I much prefer this, just being able to move around and be all expressive. And a funny little extra thing I'll just throw in there for you. I didn't make videos for ages. I was like, oh, but where will I like put my thing? I thought I needed like a camera setup, like a tripod. So I was using these water jugs I've got and my tripod, and I was like trying to make the setup. So I'm like, oh, it's not right. Where should I put it? Should I face over there? But you just need to hold your camera, and you know what? I actually prefer this. So there you go. Don't give up. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in the valley of despair right now, you're halfway, man. You've got this, okay? See you in the next video.